Okay, Marxist versus neoliberal definition of imperialism. I think that, okay, there's the Marxist understanding of imperialism, which is that imperialism is not a policy, it's not a verb, right? People think imperialism is when a country invades another country. When a country invades or attacks another country, it's engaging in imperialism. That's not the Marxist definition, right? Imperialism is not a verb, it's not a policy, it's a system. Imperialism is a system. It is capitalism in its monopoly stage, where a few banks and corporations control the global economy and keep the world poor so that they can stay rich. Lenin actually lays out 5 characteristics of imperialism: the centralization of capital, finance capital, taking dominance over industrial capital, the creation of giant cartels, etc. Right? And I've read that. Lenin gives a 5-part definition of a global economic system of imperialism. That's what imperialism is. Neoliberal people or most non-Marxist people think imperialism is a country taking over another country, a country influencing another country. That's not what imperialism is. There's a specific understanding of imperialism as being a stage of capitalism. And I think that's the difference there. And, you'll see, classic example, right? Someone was tweeting at me, being provocative, one of these anti-Russia trolls, was tweeting at me that Russia is imperialist in Syria because Gazprom, the Russian natural gas company, is partnering with the Syrian government natural gas company. Now, how is that imperialism? Syria is an underdeveloped country, and it's it's facing a civil war at the hands of the imperialists. It's trying to get its economy going. So Russia, with its state-run natural gas company, is entering a partnership with the Syrian government's state-run natural gas company to try and make Syria wealthier by exploiting its natural gas resources. There's nothing imperialist about that. No, I mean, that's not imperialism. But people are like, oh, see, they're taking their resources. No, they're not taking their resources. They're entering a business partnership, right? No, if it was imperialism, if Russia was engaging in imperialism, they'd be going there and they'd be doing everything they could to force Syria to not develop their natural gas resources. And then, on top of that, they would be forcing Syria to buy Russian natural gas. That would be imperialism. But no, they're going there and they're helping Syria to develop its own economy, its own state-run natural gas company. That's not imperialism. Imperialism wants captive markets. It wants to hold back economic development in the developing world. So it's not imperialism. China going to Africa and building a railroad so that countries can have more industry is not imperialism, right? Imperialism is the USA overthrowing the socialist president of Honduras, Manuel Zelaya, and then making sure that Honduras stays an impoverished, drug-infested country with mass illiteracy and starving that has to import all of its products from American companies. Imperialism is about holding back economic development. That's what imperialism is. Countries in the developing world joining arm in arm to engage in economic development is not imperialism, right? And this is what people need to understand, right? What Russia is doing, what China is doing, I've heard people say Venezuela's imperialist. This is my favorite. Venezuela's imperialist because it's building housing in Nicaragua. No, I've heard this. People have seriously tried to make this argument that this Venezuelan state-run housing company is going to Nicaragua and building housing for low-income people. That's imperialism. How? How is that imperialism? Well, it's a company from one country going to another. That's not what imperialism is. Imperialism is about holding back economic development. That is what imperialism is. Imperialism is not trading with another country. So, yeah, Iran sending its military to help the Iraqi people fight Wahhabi terrorists is not imperialism. Iran sending its military to Syria to help the Syrian government fight Al-Qaeda and ISIS is not imperialism, okay? Just because one country sends its military to another country is not necessarily imperialism, right? Imperialism is an economic relationship, and more specifically, it is an economic relationship that is about keeping people poor. That is what imperialism is, okay? So imperialism refers to a system, a global system, in which Western countries keep the world poor in order to make themselves rich. Very clearly not what Russia is doing around the world. Very clearly not what China is doing around the world. Very clearly not what Venezuela is doing around the world or what Iran is doing around the world. Very clearly not that. So, all right. I hope I answered that question. All right.